We've got some great news to take a look at here today involving Filip Chytil and kind of an injury update here about him. And also, we'll take a look at kind of Igor Shesterkin's possible new contract and whether or not the Rangers should actually maybe look to possibly not pay him that money, and just kind of give you my thoughts on that side of things there, because I know a lot of Rangers fans out there don't really want to pay him, but it does seem like there is a good chance that I would probably guess that the Rangers will end up signing him to that massive contract that is pretty much expected at this point. But first off here, let's take a look at the Filip Chytil injury update. And like I said, this is some really great news here, as Vince Mercagliano posted on X saying, update on Filip Chytil. He saw a specialist who determined that he's not dealing with concussion. Per source, he's planning to join the team in Calgary, which is obviously very good news for this Rangers team. There were, a few questions there on how long he would be out, how many games he'd miss, but it seems like he'll join the team in Calgary. He also had another update post on X saying Laviolette confirmed that Chytil is meeting the team in Calgary, but didn't want to speculate about whether he'll practice tomorrow or play Thursday. Quote, he's coming back to us and then we'll make those decisions. So we'll see, when he actually gets in plays, but either way, this is very good news that we are going to pretty much guaranteed to see, Filip Chytil back on this team and playing games in the very, very near future in the coming days, which is a really good sign for this team. You can't really lose your third line center when we don't have a ton of great center depth in the system right now. I mean, we've got some solid prospects, but they're, a couple years away, or at least, not until next season, where we'll probably see some of those guys maybe start to make an impact at the NHL level. So seeing Filip Chytil back here, obviously he's a guy who's dealt with a lot of concussions, it seems like. So there were some pretty big worries there, but now that it seems like, nothing's too serious and he wasn't really dealing with concussion, that is very good news for this Rangers team. And now let's talk about Igor Shesterkin and his kind of contract here, and whether or not the Rangers should actually, pull the trigger and sign him to that massive contract, because at the end of the day, I think it's probably going to happen. If I had to guess and I had to bet my money on whether or not Igor would sign a massive contract with this Rangers team or somewhere else, I would definitely bet on the Rangers offering him that deal once again, and obviously him ended up signing with the team. But the question is, with how good Jonathan Quick has actually played, should the Rangers actually go out there and give him that, 12 plus potentially $1 million per season on, an 8-year contract probably, and actually, give him that massive deal? Or should they look to go out there and bring in a different goaltender who's going to be, half the price or possibly even less, who could, still be a solid goalie, but obviously not bring, as much as Igor would, and then be able to go up there and kind of fill in pieces elsewhere? I mean, I think that's understandable and kind of why some fans think that way, and I definitely understand it. I would obviously rather be able to pay, a much cheaper goalie who's still a great one, or at least a good one, and, maybe only pay him 6, 7, 8 million, and then be able to save that massive chunk there. I get that, and I wouldn't be against that, but the problem is there's not a lot of goalies out there that are actually, really good, well above average starting goaltenders that are either going to hit for agency or are available in trade. I mean, you take a look at the top goaltenders around the league, pretty much all of them are locked up long-term and really have no chance of even being traded away. You've got guys like Vasilevsky, Hellebuck, Sorokin, Ottinger, Saros, Ullmark, Swayman. I mean, all of these guys are pretty much locked up long-term and have no chance of being traded away or even being discussed in trade talks. And even a guy like, Thatcher Demko, for example, of the Vancouver Canucks, he's a great goaltender. He's only got 2 seasons left, this one and one more after this one, until he is a free agent in, the summer of 2026. But there's really no chance of him being even talked about in being traded away, obviously. And you got to imagine the Canucks are probably going to lock him up long-term this upcoming summer, I'd imagine, or, sometime soon. So I would guess he'll get locked up long-term. So there's another guy out the market there. So really my point is, if the Rangers do want to, look to not re-sign Igor, which I don't think is going to happen, the problem is, who else is out there? And there's really not anyone else who's a well above average goaltender consistently, who's even possibly available for a trade potentially, or even this upcoming summer in free agency. The names are not good at all. There are a couple, decent ones, but to be your kind of, full-time starter, to really be that kind of guy to win you that cup there really isn't a bunch of great names out there. You've got guys like, Adin Hill, who's really not having a great season with Vegas. You've got Georgiev, who has not been playing great and definitely has not been good consistently with the Avalanche. Freddie Anderson, he's getting up there in age. You've got guys like Ville Husso, Alex Lyon. Like, there's a lot of these guys who, are all right, and maybe you want to have them as kind of like a 1B option, but they're not a lot of kind of, 1A true top tier starting caliber guys, or even kind of well above average guys, or above average guys who are consistently above average in free agency, or even via trade. So in my opinion, like I've kind of been talking about this whole entire time here in the past videos as well, as I really do think we're going to see Igor sign that massive deal, whether I like that or not. I'm not saying I love seeing Igor possibly sign a $12.5 million plus deal, or 12 plus million, or 12, let's say, over 8 years, whatever it ends up being. The average annual value of the cap hit, it's probably going to be at least 12. And, I don't love that necessarily, but with the cap going up as much as it is, I think it'll be all right. And either way, if he does sign a even $13 million deal, which I definitely wouldn't love, per season, but let's say even sign that, there still is quite a bit of money available in free agency. And I mean, cap-wise with Rangers to go out there and spend and, acquire players in free agency or via trade. So there is still room to make this team a lot better. Obviously, it'll definitely hinder things a lot and make things a lot more difficult to go out there and add those key pieces in that we obviously clearly still need. But my point still stands that at the end of the day, I think we're going to see Igor sign that massive deal with this Rangers team, because there really are no better options out there to go out there. Because it's not like you can go pay, some goaltender $6.5 million, and maybe that's about half what Igor's going to get. And, you really be comfortable with that guy as your starting goaltender, your number one guy going forward to help us win that cup. And Igor has proven to be pretty much the MVP of this team for the last, 3-4 seasons, whatever it is now. So in my opinion, you got to re-sign the guy. You really have kind of backed ourselves, obviously, into a spot there where we have to sign that massive deal, because other teams are going to be willing to sign him to a big deal, I'm sure. I mean, I can't imagine some other teams who have a lot of cap space available would be not willing to give Igor a massive deal, because a lot of teams are looking for goaltenders. Is one of the hardest things to get in the NHL, is a top tier, or at least well above average guy consistently. And that's the big thing as well, is Igor has proven to be a consistently great goaltender in the playoffs and for the most part in the regular season. Now, yes, he has his big blunders here and there. I mean, some really bad games, obviously, every once in a while, but for the most part, especially in the playoffs, he has pretty much game in and game out proven to be the top goaltender in the league when it comes to the playoffs, which is really not easy to find. I mean, it's really tough to find a goaltender like Igor who's as good as he is and does it as consistently when it matters most, when the light shine brightest, when your team is getting outshot constantly, game in and game out for the most part there. Igor's the guy who stands on his head, is the MVP of this team when it comes to the playoffs there, and, you can't really let this guy kind of walk. I just don't think we're going to see it happen. I don't think you can. You got to bring him back. There's no better options out there via trade or free agency. You can't wait 3 years down the road and hope a better guy comes up in free agency. That just can't happen, because, we're in a win now window right now. You got to bring him back. I know some fans really don't want to see it happen, and you're going to see some bad games here and there. And I know some people really get mad when you see, a 5-goal game against Igor, and I get that 100%. And when we're paying him 12, 13 and a half, whatever it ends up being, $1 million per season. I don't know if we get that high, obviously, but I'm just saying, when you're going to see games that are bad from Igor, even when he's making 12 and a half, 13, it's going to happen. But at the end of the day there, when it comes to the playoffs, let's remember what he does there. He always shows up, and so far, he has proven pretty much every single game to show up when it matters most in the playoffs, and that's all you can really ask for. Obviously, the odd game here and there, he's not going to be great, but for the most part, you're going to see some absolutely stellar play from Igor. And with the current kind of highest paid goaltender being Carey Price, making $10.5 million, obviously hasn't played in quite a while now, and Bobrovsky at 10, Igor was really always probably going to break that and become the highest paid goaltender of all time cap wise. So let's say he does make that 12.5, whatever it is. So it's an extra $2 million or 2.5, whatever it ends up being above Carey Price and Bobrovsky's deal. Is that money really going to, completely be the derailing factor on why we don't win our cup? I don't think so. I understand every dollar, every $100K, million matters a lot in the cap era, but I think at the end of the day there, with how valuable he's proven to be for this Rangers team, and the only extra couple mil really that it is above what other deals have been goalie wise, and you obviously have Bobrovsky and the Panthers win a cup with that team, making 10 mil there obviously. I think at the end of the day there, Igor has to come back here. There are clearly no better options, and no options even close to as good as he is, and this team is not built to, as of right now, obviously be able to compete without a goaltender like Igor in the playoffs. So at the end of the day there, I think we have to bring back Igor. I would love to see other options out there available to, possibly bring back for a much cheaper option who could still be a great above average starting goaltender consistently, but Jonathan Quick is not getting any younger here. He may have a couple more years left at being a really great goaltender, but let's be honest here. He's got 1 or 2 seasons at the most, probably before he retires. So I really do think Igor has to be brought back there. I'd love to see Quick come back as well, but Igor needs to come back, and we need to see this team start to build around that and, build around knowing that Igor is probably going to make that $12 to $13 million range, probably, in my opinion. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, definitely comment down below your thoughts. I know I kind of jumped around to different places here with the different goalie contracts and free agents and Igor and Quick and all that kind of talk here, but really let me know your thoughts on the Filip Chytil injury update. Obviously, that is great news, but also your thoughts on whether or not you think and kind of want the Rangers to bring back Igor on that massive contract. I mean, I kind of talked about a lot of different kind of sides things here, but I think at the end of the day here, no matter what we want as fans, Igor is probably going to come back on a massive contract. It may not look great, numbers-wise, but the cap is going up a ton, and I think eventually it could look like a pretty good contract as long as Igor does continue to play at this level in the playoffs, which we have seen him be an absolute stellar goaltender so far throughout his NHL career in the playoffs. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next one, and let's go Rangers.